Hi, my name is Andy. If you're hearing this message, then you found my therapist file, and I want you to give it back. Please. But as long as you're hearing this, I want to warn you about something. I've been told through my life that cartoons aren't alive. That all they are fictional characters drawn for a script. Well, I think otherwise, to be fully honest. I used to work for an animation studio called Covert Animations. It was not the youngest studio of its kind, actually. It originally came from the Covert Animation Company, which then turned to a studio, which then, after, turned into a completely new company, to say the best part about it, actually. But this is beside the point, okay? The whole point isn't about this. It's actually about what I've been dealing with. Now, I used to run a cartoon series called Smiley Sam's Wild Adventures. I used to remember that from a long time ago, you know that? The old 1930s and 40s. Well, mainly it mimicked that old style, but not to an extent. More of it was this kind of style that was to be rebranded as the brand new 1930s or something. It was animated with ink, actually. We did all of it by hand, and everything was finished by hand, basically. To be honest, it was really fun until something strange happened. Within 3 to 4 weeks of the show, people asked us about strange things around the office. Posters going missing, memorabilia on the floor, and the weirdest one was when Jeremy walked up to me and asked me if they saw his hat. James was one of the people who helped us with the animation process, and he had this old school hat of Mr. Smiley. We made a bunch of realistic copies of them. But when he couldn't find his, he got worried, because he thought he misplaced it, because they're not cheap to make. We helped them try to find it, but we couldn't find it anywhere. Not even in his office or in the break room, where we mostly lose our stuff, granted that we are human. It was when we were looking around the back room when we saw it. If you don't know, there's a shit ton of items around the office that we put in Lost and Found. We put them in back there just in case things do go wrong. Mainly they're just old stuff from the old posters to old memorabilia, sometimes lost items like purses and charging ports, you know, that kind of stuff. But when I went back to check for any lost things that probably someone lost, I saw his hat with the Mr. Smiley on it. At first, I thought it was just going nuts. Why the hell would this be here, right? That was until I checked again. This was next to a bunch of items. A bunch of things that I don't remember being there. A note, a disc, a bunch of DVDs, and the weirdest thing of all of it, no one knew where they came from. I remember the studio I'm working at, or used to be part of a older animation studio, the 1930s, but everyone went missing, or everyone thought. At most, everyone went missing, things went normal again, and I guess things went back to normal. Maybe. We aren't fully sure. It was like this for a few weeks, actually. What I can say is, at first, I thought it was normal. I'm sorry if I stopped. That was one of those things. But then I looked at the items again. There is more of them. This time, even more than last time. Instead of just having everything, all of them are covered in this thick coat of ink, or reddish black gunk that we found. It definitely wasn't blood, and it definitely wasn't any kind of generic or modeling paste. We don't think. But the weirdest part was, we don't know where it came from. We first thought it was probably some gunk that was left behind when the movers were probably getting rid of all the stuff. But then it had a smell. Like, it was not your standard ink smell. It was more like a smell that you'd find in a old storage closet, or I guess abandoned area. But no one knew where it came from, and we kind of just moved on with our day from that. But the weirdest things happen around here. From abandoned areas to big storage, to the biggest problem being actually memorabilia. The weirdest thing is that lots of stuff goes missing and ends up back in this back room. It wasn't until a few days ago when one of our co-workers, or not a few days ago, but yeah, at the time, a few days ago, I'm trying to put in the present here, found a back room. It wasn't like your standard, I guess, your standard back room where you have in office supplies. It was different. The first thing that was found that was off about it was that all the memorabilia that went missing ended up back there, as well as most of the stuff that was in the back room. Well, not back room, I guess, back storage was also there. At first, I thought it was a prank and asked the person to come out. Well, management doesn't like us snooping in that office. I thought of something. Or at the time I did. And it was, what if I were to explore that without them knowing? That being said, I had the night shift then. The night shift is mainly you get paid more, but you spend the night in this area. Basically, you're the kind of person who finishes up small drawings, cleans up the plate, and so on. You'd think that it wouldn't be a lot of debris and stuff, but it is quite a lot of stuff, actually. And at the very end, we don't really have much of anyone to deal with it, so I took the job and all that kind of stuff. So, this is where the story comes in and why I no longer want to work there anymore. I entered the back room, finally. It was dark, actually. The back room's electricity is linked to the main building, so it's using a flashlight to look around it. That was when I noticed that door, the original door that was found, was open completely. I remember someone closing it early before they left, but I guess someone opened it. Now, following my gut instincts, I shouldn't have won it. And I didn't. Until I noticed something different about the building's back room. Instead of it being this standard coloring, it looked like it was an overbuilt studio. Like someone or something was upgrading back there. I couldn't resist and ran back there. The place was old, grimy, falling apart, wood splintering off the seams, and the entire place smelling like old aged ink. If you know what that smell is, you can say it's either a good smell or a bad smell. It smelled nostalgic, though the weirdest part was the entire place. My company, or the animation studio, I should say, ordered a bunch of mascots, or they found a bunch of old mascot-like figures in the back. They resemble the characters that were originally that we bought the company from, said that they made mascot characters that were for the animation studio, those being Mr. Smiley, Miss Huggles, Tip and Tap, whereas the weirder ones were the Junk and the Gray Thing, all being original characters from that time, which they were being used in the studio, which it's still being used. Though the weirdest part about it was these looked different. Instead of being cartoony versions of the characters with cartoony boots and goofy gloves and so much shit, these were different. They weren't like your standard cartoon characters. They had strange features. Eyes that resembled a stare from a distance. The goofy grin with a slightly melting part of it. And the strangest part was their lanky body. Unlike their short, stubby, and excited characters, they were tall, thin, and the worst part of it, their feet. They didn't have your standard cartoonish feet color. They just had these stubs at the bottom. They were almost like balancing. At first, I thought it would be funny just to kind of look at one for a long time. I even examined it. It wasn't like the thing was moving at all. It was just a statue, and I guess it was pinned to the ground because it wasn't moving in the slightest. So, at the end, I chose to leave the door. Basically, shut the door again and make sure that no one got in. I guess I shouldn't really say that I went in there, but at the point, I just closed the door, put the big chair that was in front of it originally, and left. The rest of the night was kind of boring, to be honest. A lot of cleaning up and things I should have done in the morning, right? Well, around 2 a.m., which was the time this happened, I heard a loud bang noise from that room. At first, I thought it was just one of those rat problems we've been having recently. But when I went to check, the door was ripped open. Like, not ripped open in the way that it would be like knocked off its hinges kind of way. It was knocked off its door to a point where I didn't know where the door ended and where the hinges began, kind of ripped off. I noticed all those statues, all of them seemed to have been still there, except for the Mr. Smiley one, which was missing. I went to contact or maybe call corporate about this, so I ran back to my office, basically just ran back in, checked the door, and asked corporate about the strange statues I saw. The weird ones. Not the ones that the company made, but the weird ones in this back room. They responded with, "What statues? Are you talking about the ones that we made?" I told them no. I told them that it was in the back room area. And they told me, "We locked that place off a long time ago. No one, not even you, went in. Did you?" I lied and said I didn't. Mainly keep my job so I don't lose it. They then told me, "Good. You didn't open the door. The one thing you should know is that that door should always be closed. But if it does open, stay in your office and don't respond to anything." I immediately hang up. They said to hang up, and I said good night, yada yada yada, didn't want to fun. About 2 hours pass after this call. It's now 5, and I'm just relaxing in the office, cleaning it up, listening to music, yada yada yada. And then I hear a voice, like a or something like that. I can't do an impersonation of it, but you can kind of imagine what I mean by a goofy ass laugh in the background. I thought I was hearing things, to be honest, until I heard it again, but this time closer. I kept listening for it. and realized that it wasn't getting louder. Something was getting closer. I immediately went to check the camera here. There's also a ton of cameras, and I thought it'd be good to check. I shouldn't have checked, because what I will say next scared me to my very core. Immediately as I checked, I saw it. A cartoony figure the size of the doorway. With these doors are like 5 foot, 6 foot 2. It was barely fitting through the door. It was that statue thing I said before. But instead of it just being a dormant thing, it wobbled around like it was trying to balance itself on items. And unlike the damn statue, it was moving stuff. Like, not just moving stuff. Like, I saw it grabbing old memorabilia, toys, collector's items, things that we usually keep for people that really want them, overpriced stuff. And then it stared at the camera, and then stopped. It just stared. I immediately went to turn off the cameras when I saw it dash at the wall. And with a clash, something was off. Immediately after this, I called my boss up and went through the code. If you don't know, we have codes for specific things. Code 3 is for burglar, code 7 is for this, and code 10 was weird. Because code 10 said, if something tall, lanky, and scary walks around, call code 7. So I called my boss. He was kind of upset that I called him. He asked me what the fuck I was doing, and it's late in the morning. What are you doing calling me this time? He said code 9, which I think it was code 9. Or was it code 9? I can't remember. But he stopped talking. I get a bit nervous talking about the story. Sometimes I fear I hear that thing outside my own house. I called him up and sent out the code. Immediately he stopped talking and said, code 1, code 9, code 7, code 2. And he said code 9. And he went quiet. Normally he'd laugh it off and say, I don't fix the problem. But he didn't talk at all this time. He sounded worried. Like, not just regular, I'm worried about my employees. Like, worried like I've never heard him sound before. He asked me, did you enter the back room? I told him no, actually. I didn't tell him about the back room and me entering and finding all the stuff. He immediately went quiet and muttered, oh God, under his breath. He then told me, stay in the office and call 911. I listened to him because I knew he was serious. I called 911, and when I went back to my own phone, he hung up. Just hung up out of nowhere, He's weird sometimes. When they asked me what was going on, or who I was and how may I help, I explained to them my name, what was going on, and I said a tall, cartoony character is walking around the facility of my building, and it's now trying to get to me. When the operators went quiet, they asked me where exactly I was. I called up the person. No, I didn't call him. I told the person where I was. Immediately, the person said, don't worry, we're on our way, and hung up. Now, I was surprised when I heard that, because I would have thought they would say, oh, you might be crazy, we'll call someone to check, but they responded quickly. It was strange, but I would allow it. Immediately, the laughing stopped after that phone call. At First, I thought I was safe, and that whatever the freak was out there was no longer out to get me. That was when I heard slamming this time. Not just hitting, but now that thing was next to the door, slamming it, head on, full force. I was scared. At this point, I thought I would be dead. I thought I would have been dead by the next morning, corpse on the floor, that thing back in this room, and I would be dead with no trace. That was when I heard the police running, or what sounded like the police, I think. I didn't know if exactly those police or not, because they sounded different. They mumbled and muttered rather than actually speaking. One of them then yelled, "It's trying to get the guy!" And then gunshots to be exact, rung out through the entire building. The thing screamed. Not your normal, painful scream. A scream that sounded incredibly inhuman. It was so ear-killing that I had to cover my ears the whole time. He kept muttering the phrase, "Check if he's inside." And, when I heard knocking, I told them that I was scared and I didn't want to come out. They said, "Stay in the office, we'll handle this." Immediately after, I heard scurrying, running, almost. And I guess the thing ran back to its creepy-ass domain in this corridor room thing. The police said that they got it and it's safe to come out. I opened the door and thanked them, though they didn't look happy. More of they looked scared or frightened a little bit, but not happy. They asked me what happened and how it got out again. I explained everything, this time explaining the lie-in, telling them that I was working my shift until the door opened. Then I didn't see anything, moved on, and there it was. They told me that their job wasn't to be police officers, but to make sure that thing didn't hurt any more people. I guess the government knows about these types of things. Who knew? They asked me about my name and where I work, or if anybody saw it, but they asked me anyway as part of the job and yada yada yada. I explained to them my name, what happened, and where I was at the time. Luckily, I don't think the cameras saw me actually entering it because I didn't turn them on until I got into the office. I forgot to turn them on. They thanked me for my time and told me have a good day, and then went quiet, telling me, They asked me, I'm sorry, recalling the story gives me a headache. They asked me when I noticed it. I told them it was around 5. They then asked me, did you lose these items? And they dropped them, and they went to the floor or dropped. One of them, I think, accidentally kicked one. A bunch of items that the employees were missing. Sketchbooks, items, archive stuff, you name it. I said yes and thanked them and how they found it. They said that thing dropped it, and when they went to check it out, nothing was left other than the items that were left behind. I thanked them and I told them that management don't worry about reordering the items. They agreed, nodded, and left. Immediately that day, I asked my manager what the hell happened, or who he called, or what the number was. He didn't answer my question, gave me a raise, and told me to take the day off. I did so, and I go to therapy every once in a while. But when my manager asked me if he saw it move, or he asked me if I saw it move, I said I saw it run back to the back. He then told me something that shook me to my core. What back room? That wall has been blocked off for years. Wait, you're talking about that back room? My manager then went to the boarded up wall that I guess that thing came out of. The old wall part, door, whatever. And he then looked at it and asked, "Where is it?" I asked, "Where is what?" In mid-sentence, my heart sank. Whatever the hell that thing was, it wasn't there. And a broken window was on the other side of it. Mostly, that's what I thought. Or, I don't know what I was thinking at the time, but for all I know, I thought the creature was just straight up left everything behind and gone. Now, remember what I said I thought I heard it earlier in writing this? I quit my job a week after that happened. I couldn't take distress, and I quit my job and am working from home as a home-style animator. But every once in a while, I hear noises that sound way too familiar to that night. Noises like items being shuffled around, items like that goofy laugh. And the weirdest one, I sometimes look outside and see it. Its tall, slender figure, creepy eyes. At first I thought it was just my hallucination. I don't know what this thing is, but every time I see it, it just waves. And whenever a car passes by or a light flickers, it's then gone, leaving a note. Lots of notes. I have 45 notes of this thing. It writes in Comic Sans and wants to be my friend. I don't know what to do at this point. The lady I call my therapist at this point keeps saying that I'm probably taking some drugs or tripping on something, or maybe they did something to my food. At this point, I'm thinking of just hospitalizing myself, locking myself away in a padded cell maybe. This is making me go insane. And these cartoonish thing, whatever the hell this is, I don't think it's nice. Nor I don't think it's me. But if you ever see a cartoonish character or a strange back room behind your animation studio, don't open the door. Whatever you do, don't let your curiosity kick in. For my sake, I don't want someone to suffer the same fate that I had, and I don't know what to do anymore in this situation. I think I'm just gonna get some rest and sleep. But if I don't make a video, or if I don't come back, just know that thing probably got me.
Hey guys, thank you so much for listening to a Smile Corp / Cartoon Creepypasta. This is my first one I've ever done, and I really hope you enjoyed it. Now, I will not do this again, probably unless you guys want to. But if you did like it, please like and sub. It helps the channel grow a lot. But at the very end, I hope to see you all next time. Peace out, guys.